Welcome to Get the Facts, the program that provides you with information on the latest topics. I'm Theodore Henry. January is Earthquake Awareness Month, and we have Richard Thompson, Acting Director General, Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, we know it as ODPEM, to tell us where Jamaica is at in terms of readiness and the key things that you should be aware of. Welcome to Get the Facts, Sir Thompson.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
All right, let's jump right into it. Now, hurricane, you hear it on the news. Storm, you hear it on the news. Maybe even fires that are happening in other places. You get some sort of warning. Can you be prepared for an earthquake?
You can be prepared. Part of your preparedness is hardening in your infrastructure and also your softer side of preparedness, which is your drills.
Okay.
But let me just say something quickly before I get into that aspect of preparedness. Now, because you spoke about hurricanes.
Right.
In the hazard realm, there are rapid onset events and there are slow onset events.
Okay.
So your hurricane is a slow onset event. You see it being formed 2-3 weeks before an impact. You see it coming. For earthquake is a rapid onset event because of that rapid movement of what we call the plates. Right, and for us in Jamaica, we sit on a very active
fault line,
plate system, yes, and we have a lot of fault lines running through Jamaica.
Oh.
So we sit at the boundary of the Caribbean and North American plate margin, and then we have another crack in that plate, which is called a microplate, and we sit right on top of that Guinevere microplate. That makes us very vulnerable. So because of our vulnerability, we have to look at preparedness. And yes, sometimes persons do ask the question, can you be totally prepared for an earthquake? If you have a major event that you're 7.1, 7.2, 7.6, you will have impact. But what you have to do in terms of your preparedness is how you look at the hardening your infrastructure.
Okay.
And your construction principles, looking at your code system, your building codes. So what we have been doing from a national perspective is ensuring that we have very modern and robust building codes.
Right.
So we have gone through a process some years ago to look at our building legislation, inputting the building bill now, the act.
Right.
And then now we are. But the code system was a little bit before that, because sometimes we kind of put the horse, the carriage in front of the horse.
Right, yeah.
The carriage in front of the horse, because we needed to ensure that we had those codes in place, and your code is really regulation.
Right.
And regulations tend to come after you have developed your legislation. But because the legislative process is lengthy at times, you want to ensure that you have the codes in place, which is your regs, to ensure that persons are abiding by the codes.
Right.
And so we have put that in place, and we have been constantly ensuring that there is training for your engineers, training for persons that are involved in the national development application process, to ensure that the infrastructure that we are putting down are sound enough to in some way withstand major earthquakes up to a point, and ensuring that when you have your moderate quakes, it is not interrupting your infrastructure. So if your infrastructure is weak, your moderate quakes
will cause damage.
Because even though it was traumatic for a lot of persons, the 5.6 quake in October of 2023 was classified in the realm of how you classify earthquakes. It's a moderate quake. But for a lot of persons not experiencing something like that before, they saw it as a major event. But it's really a moderate quake. So if your systems are not sound, you will have moderate earthquakes interrupting your system. So we try to ensure that from a code system and how we build, and we build fairly sound, because if you do comparison between Jamaica and, say, the experience that the Caribbean had in 2010, with the Haiti earthquake and what happened in Haiti. Our building systems is way better because we build with concrete and steel. We have solid rebar, they are properly spaced. We ensure that black pockets are filled with concrete. We mix our concrete mixtures to a certain specification, and we ensure that the concrete infrastructure that we put down are robust enough to withstand.
And this is what we mean when we say earthquake-resistant buildings.
But part of it lend itself to being seismic resistant, but your seismic resistant from an engineering standpoint goes a little bit beyond that.
Okay.
It looks at your foundation, how you lay out your foundation, how deep your foundations are.
Deeper is better.
Deeper is better. At worst, if you're doing high-rise building, you really have to have very deep foundation.
Right.
Your structural engineering process have to be on point, because the size of steel that you use for a high-rise building is way different, way larger than the size that you'd use for a single-story or a two-story building.
Right.
And then when you go beyond that now, if you look at what is done like in China, Turkey, Chile, these places that tend to have major earthquakes a lot of times, you have hardcore seismic infrastructure. Buildings are built on rubber-type springs, so you're building sway. You're building sway instead of your parts moving in different direction.
So you move away from just whole rigidity.
Whole rigidity.
Okay.
So you allow your building that kind of free movement. So a lot of the foundations are on springs.
Oh, that's cool.
Rubber type springs. So the technology is getting better, in terms of your infrastructure. What we are doing a lot in Jamaica now is ensuring that we have raft type foundation. We have a tradition of building where you cut into the ground for your foundation.
Right.
But so you have a foundation running horizontal, one running parallel to that, and you have those are interlinked, and then you have the dirt in between.
Right.
Right. So when you and then same thing with your beams, but when you're building, when the ground start to vibrate, when you have those rolling waves, and the building start to vibrate, those members move in different direction. Because it's not on one plane.
So, Sir Thompson, I want you to hold on. You're giving us a very good engineering lesson right now, and the builders are watching. But we're going to take a break right now. We've covered one thing so far. You might not be able to prepare, as in predict, but you absolutely can prepare and harden infrastructure. We'll continue the discussion with Richard Thompson, Acting Director General of the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, on the other side of this break. Welcome back to Get the Facts. We're discussing common earthquake awareness with Richard Thompson, Acting Director General in the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM. Sir Thompson, you were speaking about how we usually lay down foundations in Jamaica, and you were going somewhere with that engineering example.
Yes, so the principle that we normally use is we cut into the ground based on how the rooms are being laid out. And so you will have your foundation running.
You go the square. Right?
Yeah, you go the square, and you have your other linking parts to your foundation. And then in between that, you'd have dirt. So when you fill the foundation, you put up the blocks, you normally fill the floor.
Right.
The floor is not totally linked to the foundation.
Oh, it's just a filling inside
the box. Filling inside the box,
before.
In the box.
Okay.
So you don't have that kind of rigidity. So when you have the kind of matte foundation, the matte foundation now, which is being used now, which is your raft type foundation. You're a raft, it literally can float. You put in all your rebars in that foundation, it's deep enough, and your columns come up out of that, and the foundation is linked, and everything is linked together.
Right.
So when there is an earthquake and you have that kind of earth movement, rolling waves, and the energy which is generated from the earthquake cause the building to shake, the entire building space.
So it is.
Instead of each member moving in separate direction. If you move in separate directions, it will rip apart. So as I was saying to you at the break, it's like tearing a piece of paper. You have to pull in the separate direction for the paper to tear.
Right. Yeah.
If you go this, is the paper going to crush it? Still going to stay together, but it's going to crush. If you move it
Then it rips.
in different direction, it will rip. So that's what will happen to your members.
Got you.
So it forms part of the seismic engineering and the modern principles in terms of engineering in construction.
Well, let's talk people now. We've spoken earthquake resistance, we've spoken preparedness in terms of at the national level, building regulations, codes, the legislation getting there. But let's talk people, a person in their house. Back in school, we learned what to do
Yes.
when an earthquake happens. You can remind us of
The drop, cover, hold.
Yes.
So part of it is the principle is to ensure there's a tremor. You get down, which is drop.
Don't run outside.
Even outside, you move to a clear location.
Nothing hanging over you.
No trees, no power lines, nothing, as best as possible.
Right.
And you really should get down and you crouch, because the drop component is actually to prevent you from being shaken off your feet.
Oh, okay.
In the vibration.
So you're already down there.
So you're already down there, and if you're standing and you have a powerful vibration, you will be shaken off your feet, and chances are you can get injured. Spinal injury, back injury, head injury.
Yeah.
And then if you're inside, you still get down. We say get under something sturdy. So you get under a desk or a sturdy table. Well, no glass desk, no glass table.
Yeah.
Get under a desk or a table, and you hold on, meaning as best as possible you can hold on to the legs of the table. That is to also keep it in place. So you're trying to hold it in place, and you're also trying not for you to be shaken off your feet as well, even though you're down on the ground.
I have to jump in here though. So considering that we live in an earthquake-prone country, then part of the things, when I go to courts or this building or that building and I buy stuff, maybe I should buy a sturdy table. I should think about those things.
Yes. So and it is even for when we talk about hurricane. I know persons do their roof construction. A lot of the time persons are thinking aesthetic first. And not practicality.
Resilience,
and not practicality. So it's the same principle for
people in their homes.
People in their homes. There are nowadays you have a lot of glass type furniture.
Yeah.
Is it practical for us in a very seismic active zone where you can't use those to help you with the earthquake principles that we preach? Because the main thing is to ensure that you're protecting the most vital part of your body and sensitive, which is your head. Because you will have stuff coming down in your moderate type shake. In your major quake, your building might pancake into itself, which is your building might collapse, right? But for your moderate, which you have most of those, which is moderate type events, then you will have to protect yourself, because on average we have over 200 earthquakes in Jamaica. For 2024, we had 310 recorded earthquakes. 19 of those were felt events, but they were really moderate type events, the largest one being 5.2 in terms of magnitude. So, but those will take down.
Most of them.
Most of them you don't feel, but they are recorded by the earthquake unit using their seismographs, seismometers, accelerometers. So the earthquake network that we have in Jamaica, it will pick up on those events. So,
Sir Thompson, we are aware that at the national level, there's an emergency response infrastructure, teams and also at the first responders that are set up. Can you give us an update on the readiness level at the national level?
So at the national level, you have the ODPEM, which is the National Disaster Coordinator. So we sit at the top. We sit at the top. And then we have, whenever time we go operational, there's what is classified as the National Emergency Operations Center. And then sitting within the National Emergency Operations Center is the National Response Team. And so the National Response Team have that responsibility in terms of search and rescue, debris management, and general management of an event. So there is a National Search and Rescue Team. And that National Search and Rescue Team in 2010 did a lot of work in Haiti. So we went into Haiti and led the National Search and Rescue Team. Had a lot of members of the Jamaica Fire Brigade being on it, persons from the
Right,
JDF.
I was going to ask you about that.
Persons from the JDF, you have health personnel and everyone on that team, and we did a lot of work in Haiti. So in the country we have that search and rescue element, which we are still mapping out and building out. So we have a small search and rescue team. The building that out in terms of what we are looking at is to ensure we have a very large search and rescue team. So your search and rescue team can go up to 30 members.
Right.
And on that as well, you have your medical personnel, you have personnel for hazmat, which is your hazardous material personnel. You have persons that have your cadaver dogs. You know, you have something you use dogs to find if persons are within some of your collapse structure. So that's what we are looking at in terms of building out the team that we have in country and ensuring that we have a wider search and rescue process. Also, critical to that as well is debris management.
Right.
And so the NSWMA, National Solid Waste Management Authority, is part of that process as well to ensure that we are looking at debris management. Some years ago, we did some training to ensure that we have personnel in country that have capabilities to manage that process. And so what we have to do, and what we constantly try to do, is to get better.
Yeah.
You know, because we do understand our vulnerability. So we can't take it for granted that we have some teams in place to ensure that we're building on that. And in terms of the team itself, and ensuring that we're building on the ability of the state to respond to its people.
And not just, of course, I expect it's not just in, it's across the country, rural areas, in the urban areas. But I want to spend the last 2 seconds of this interview, like we're out of time. Earthquake Awareness Month. If you can just speak directly to our viewers in just a few seconds.
All right, so for your Earthquake Awareness Month is set up with the idea to ensure that we're getting information to the public around earthquake preparedness. And January is significant as it relates to Earthquake Preparedness Month, where we use January because we use it as the commemoration for the 1907 Great Kingston earthquake.
Yeah.
And so we use that to drive the information to persons that earthquake preparedness is essential. Buildings, earthquake preparedness for schools, your businesses, in the home, churches, everywhere where you can have mass gathering, that earthquake preparedness is important. Because if you look across the country, nowhere across the country is relatively safe when it comes to earthquake, because we have fault lines running across the entire country. So if you look at a map of Jamaica, it's like if you boil a egg and you break that eggshell, that's what it looks like in terms of our seismic map.
So it's
like
everybody.
A broken eggshell. So it's for everybody. And we tend to have more earthquakes along the northern side, because the northern side of the country, especially in the Kingston zone, is built out on alluvium. And alluvium act very differently from your bedrocks in a seismic event, you know, because the rolling wave is you have more dirt than hard rock.
I think we absolutely need to get you back to talk some more about this. And what if I can just put it all together, we cannot predict, but we can prepare in buildings, in schools, in churches, as you said, anywhere at mass gatherings.
Yes.
And in January, we want everybody to take this in mind. Earthquakes can happen at any time. So, Mr. Thompson, thank you for a very informative discussion, and thank you, our viewers, for tuning in. Remember to stay informed, and we'll see you next time.